Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Zen from Zen World, and we are back with another episode of Comic Book Vibes number 2. Today, I'm going to be talking about different comic books that I'm interested in, so to speak, and also we're just going to talk about some of the future of the DCEU. Okay, so we're going to get started. One of the first books that I definitely want to get, and now I'm going to be very honest with you. All the books that I'm talking about right now, I'm not actually going to pick them up. I'm ordering them and, they're going to come in. And Marvel didn't release any books this week, right? It's really about DC and there's a lot of indies. So some of the books that I'm going to go over are mainly going to be DC. And that doesn't mean that I'm only a DC lover. It just means that, well, DC is producing right now. So, and I want to get into some of the stories that prior to the quarantine I wasn't able to finish, or I had that feeling that I wanted to read the next book. So that first book is Justice League number 44. Now, with Justice League number 44, it's about a Cold War kickoff, right? It's about the Justice League traveling to Antarctica, and they seem to be going through a battle of sorts or adventure. Now, one of the things with Justice League, some people are not liking this current run because they just finished with the Justice League versus Perpetua and all those different things. I'm just looking for a good story and a good adventure to just read a one-off story until they get into their next adventure. And that's what I'm appreciating when it comes to Robert Venditti, which is the writer, right? I'm not looking for a big war, a big event, or I'm kind of over it a little bit. The big event, just looking for a good one-off story until they get to the next story, right? Some of you might agree with that, and some of you might not. But I just kind of want to see that the adventures of the Justice League, kind of like I'm watching an episode of the Justice League. The next book that I'm interested in getting, and it is another Justice League book, is Justice League Odyssey number 20. So this one, the writer is Dan Abnett, and the illustrator is Will Conrad, right? And cover illustrator by Scan. And this story, Justice League Odyssey, I'm really impressed with Justice League Odyssey, and I'm very impressed with Justice League Dark. Now, going back to Justice League Odyssey, this one, number 20, is about Darkseid. He's threatening reality, as he always is, upon the Epoch, which is the Lord of Time, and has plans to stop him. So as Darkseid threatens reality as we know it, Epoch, the Lord of Time, has plans to stop him, right? So who is Epoch, right? Again, we just heard that he is the basically the Lord of Time. And Epoch has phenomenal technology. So how he plans on doing that, that's what we're going to find out in this book. So again, Justice League Odyssey is just a really phenomenal story. It Justice League Odyssey is kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy of the Justice League, but a lot more serious, so to speak. There isn't that many jokes that go around and things of that nature, but we have characters like Cyborg, we have Jessica Cruz, we have our man Darkseid, we have a whole bunch of characters that really bring out a really good storytelling. So I'm really impressed with Dan Abnett and his storytelling so far. I did miss out on Justice League Odyssey number 4 and also number 7, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't think that I missed out on too much. The storyline is still continuous. One of the things that I'm confused about is where the timeline is placed, right? In that sense. But it is what it is. The next book on my list is Dollhouse. Now, some of you are like, Dollhouse, or the Dollhouse family, pardon, number 6. So I love the Joe Hill House comic books, and overall they're very mature. They're for mature audiences. They're not really for kids to to read. None of these books are really, but I think they're whoever reads it, they read it. But basically, Dollhouse Family number 6 is just exciting because it's just a synopsis from it. No one leaves the dollhouse, right? All will be weighed. Only one can prevail. And I know that sounds very like a riddle of sorts, right? And that's how a Dollhouse Family is. it's kind of a mystery of finding out what's going to happen next. So the writer is Mike Carey, illustrators is Vince Locke, Peter Gross, and cover illustrator by Jay Ancelito, right? So, or it could be others depending on the cover that you get. But I'm getting the cover by Jay Ancelito because this cover is amazing. It does diverge from the vanilla or the cover A, which is them showing the dollhouse and dollhouse family number 6, right? So, overall, those DC books that I just mentioned, I'm overall just excited for them, just to get a good story going. It's being in quarantine for so long, you're kind of like itching for brand new stories, and even though I could read old stories, you kind of hear spoilers of the old stories and the newer stories. So, I'm more inclined to just want to read brand new content, right? If that makes sense. One of the indies that I'm getting, I'm not too sure if it's an indie of sorts, and the reason why I'm getting this book, or I'm gonna read this book, is because I'm loving the whole vampire genre, and it's probably because I watched 2 movies on Netflix that made me want to read vampire books or know about them, right? I watched V Wars on Netflix, and it isn't going to get a season 2, but I enjoyed it for what it was. So anyway, going back to the comic book. So I want to pick up Vlad Dracul #1, and this is by Scout Comics. Now, some of you probably don't know what Scout Comics are, and I'm not too sure myself. So I'm not too sure if they're an indie group or they're a bigger group, but basically, it's telling the story of Vlad Dracul II, who we know in history as the Impaler, right? He's the son of the dragon, was a warlord, and he's a guardian warrior, and such forth, right? So I'm intrigued to read about this book, and the reason why is, and it leads back into another movie. I watched Dracula Untold, right? And basically it's about the origins of Dracula, and I thoroughly enjoyed that movie, and I really want a part 2, right? So this is kind of being a filler or filling in the gaps for what I want to see in the future, right? So those are my picks for, and it's not that many picks at all. There's another book, but I did mention it yesterday, and that goes to Unkillables #2. So Deceased Unkillables #2. I mentioned it yesterday. It's gonna feature Wonder Woman in her state of, the anti-life equation virus that she has from all the deceased characters. So yeah, I'm intrigued for all of those books. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about are some of the DCEU and also the DC extended universe. So just to review, I'm gonna do a quick review on Justice League Apocalypse War, and I mentioned it in some of my earlier videos. Justice League Apocalypse War is just amazing animation itself. Now, DC usually can do no wrong when they're making their animated movies. The storytelling in this one was very reminiscent to the severity of what was happening in Flashpoint, but on a much larger scale. Maybe not much larger, but I felt it more in Apocalypse War. So just to give you a quick rundown on it, so spoilers coming up if you didn't see it already, but basically I was gonna say Apocalypse, Darkseid is gonna take over Earth, and now Superman is fed up. He's fed up. He wants to go attack Apocalypse, which is where Darkseid lives, basically, and he wants to just bring the war to him before it comes to Earth, which makes sense, right? He wants to be preemptive. He wants to gather up the forces of the Justice League and go to Apocalypse. Now, in the movie, we are introduced to John Constantine, and let me tell you something, everyone. I did not like this character before. No, let me not say that. I didn't really see what was the hype behind the character before, and now I am a I am a Constantine fan. I am definitely a Constantine fan. Now, this movie, he was the main character to me. There were other characters in the movie, but for me, it was John Constantine, and he was the highlight of everything that happened in the movie, right? But basically, they bring the war to, or they seemingly bring the war to Darkseid, but Darkseid knows he knows of their plans, and he knows of their plans through looking through technology on a reverse end for Cyborg. So he's looking through the eye of Cyborg and seeing and hearing all of their plans during their meeting that they're having. So that's cool, but usually you would just see, like, you would read a comic book or read something or watch a cartoon, right? And they just lose and that's it. No, we literally see Justice League members dying, losing arms, and things of that nature in this movie. And we get a time skip where it's like 2 years later, or I believe is it 2 years later? I'm not too sure, but we get a time skip nonetheless. And everything on Earth is grim. Nothing is going right. And there's some characters that are still alive, including John Constantine, who seemingly ran away the first time when they went to Apocalypse to fight Darkseid. But we come to find out later on that he didn't actually run away. There was a spell casted on him by Zatanna to get him away because they are lovers, right? She couldn't save herself, so she saved him, and it was all part of one gigantic plan led by none other than Batman himself. And the plan was basically we would need him. That's it. It wasn't more than that. We would need John Constantine. Now, why is John Constantine such a phenomenal character? Why am I so invested in the character? He isn't the most powerful magic wielding character or sorcerer or anything of that nature, but he does know the tricks of the trade. He does have a spell for pretty much any situation. And because of his craftiness, he is pretty much a character that you would want to have on your side to go against pretty much any outworldly force, right? So anyway, I'm not going to say too much on that movie, but how would I rate the movie? I would rate the movie a 9 out of 10. Just kidding. I would give it a 10 out of 10. Now, I was going to come up with a corny line and say, well, I would give it a 9. I would only give it a 10 if it was longer, right? But no, the movie was great. The movie was great. The ending was phenomenal. It was, again, the movie was very grim, and the superheroes won, but they really didn't win. Because when you see the ending of Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, then you'll notice that no one actually won. And the Flash had to do something. So I'll let you guys think about what he had to do. But if you watch Flashpoint, you'll kind of figure it out. I kind of gave a spoiler within that, but it's okay. You guys chose to hear me out. But in terms of the DCEU, there's some movies coming out, right? There's some movies coming out, and we need a reset. We need a reboot. And the reset that we need is seemingly going to come in the form of Batman and also our movie Wonder Woman 1984. Now, the Batman movie, everyone is on the fence, right? They're on the fence about the Batman movie. And the reason why they're on the fence is because they're thinking about the actor, right? They're thinking about the actor, and every time they see him, they're just imagining Twilight. Yeah, they're imagining Twilight, and it's not fair. It's definitely not fair. And I'm trying to remember the actor's name, Patterson. What's his last name is Patterson, but I'm not remembering the first name. I don't want to say John because it's not John Patterson, right? It's here we go. This is those moments when I can't remember a character's name, but it's not John. It's Robert Patterson. Patterson. Now he's gonna be the Batman, and it's gonna be directed by Matt Reeves, and it's gonna have characters like Zoe Kravitz, who's gonna play Catwoman and things of that nature. So I'm excited. I've seen him in other movies, right? My only view of him is not Twilight, and even if it was, give the actor a chance. Give him a chance to prove himself, just like any other movies. Now, if we watch the movie and it's horrible, then it could be him as an actor, or it could be the writing. And I don't think Matt Reeves is gonna do a bad job. I do think he's gonna do a good job, and I do think that Robert Pattinson is going to be trained to be a great Batman. That's just my theory. That's not my theory. It's my prediction. My prediction is that this Batman is going to be a good Batman. Now, when it comes to Wonder Woman 1984, I think the movie is going to be phenomenal in itself. It's directed by Patty Jenkins, and it's the initial release was supposed to be August 12th, 2020. So we'll see what happens. But the one thing that lets me know it's going to be a great movie, I'm going to be super serious with you all right now. Yes, we have Patty Jenkins as a director, but we also have the music composed by Hans Zimmer. This movie can do no wrong if the music is composed by Hans Zimmer. He's a phenomenal composer. Guys, come on. Like, I don't know who could argue with me. Yes, there probably was some movies that weren't so good, but it probably did better knowing that Hans Zimmer was the composer. So that's just my hype, because his music is phenomenal. I often will watch a movie, and my son knows this too. We'll go to watch a movie, and if it's composed by Hans Zimmer, best believe when I leave the movie theater and I get in my car, I am going straight to YouTube to look up the OST or the whole entire soundtrack of that film, because yeah, that's how Hans Zimmer is. His work, his music is so immersive that it lends itself to various emotions where you could really deep dive into your mental state when you're listening to his music, depending on what it is about, right? I watch movies like, yeah, it's just amazing. I'm not even going to talk about the other movies. But finally, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is what movie could basically help the whole entirety of the DCEU. Now, I'm kind of swayed right now, and the reason why I'm kind of swayed is because The Flash could reset everything. Could reset everything. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going back to another movie, so I'm going to spoil some things and then re-spoil other things. Now, Flashpoint is supposed to be a movie that was supposed to come out, right? And by, Ezra Miller is going to be the Flash, as he was in the past movies. He did something wrong, which is making everyone kind of wonder about his character and if he's going to continue to be in the DC Extended Universe, right? But the concept of Flashpoint alone is very vast, and what it is Barry Allen goes back in time and he changes something. Now, in the original comic book continuity, he goes back, or even if you're watching the CW one, right? Either one is fine. It still has the same concept. Barry Allen goes back. He changes something that is subjective to him. For example, saving his mom. He saves his mom, and one would expect, including himself, if you have super speed, right, that he saves his mom, and all that happens is he comes back to present time and his mom is alive, and that's it, right? But that's not it. It has a ripple effect. It has a butterfly effect on everything around. He goes back to save his mom instead of her dying, and it ripples throughout space and time. Everything changes. Now, if you watch the animated movie, he goes back to save his mom, and when I mean everything changes, everything, even Superman coming to Earth changes. Superman comes to Earth, and the government captures him, right? And superheroes that were normally superheroes are now enemies, or kind of like dictatorish, right? The whole thing changes. But why the Flash or a Flashpoint movie in the DCEU could be a great thing is because it can reset the events of movies that didn't do so well, basically, right? And they would have to do it in a way that makes sense. Now, Robert Pattinson as the Batman could play a younger version of the Batman that we saw in Batman vs. Superman, right? And we did see a scene where the Flash, it's still there, right? In Batman vs. Superman, or the first Justice League movie, Batman vs. Superman, we saw the Flash come back, and he did say to Bruce, "Save Martha," right? And that was seemingly something that would basically fix everything. But what if the Flash came back to say that to Bruce, and that was actually just him trying to fix everything within the timeline? Meaning that it wasn't only him just saying save Martha, he was also just, that was like one in like a whole bunch of different jobs that he needed to do to fix everything back. But eventually he fixes things as best he could, and they don't really fix the way that it originally was, which is okay. And this point, we don't want him to fix everything because some of the older movies weren't as good. We want him to only go back to fix things / mess with things in a way where we could progress forward with the DCEU in really good continuity and good storytelling. Now, it's just a theory that could happen, right? Now, there are other movies like Black Adam coming out, Shazam, which did pretty good. The Shazam movie didn't do bad at all. And one of the things with the Shazam movie is that it did open up the gates, and it did have references to Batman and Superman, even in that extended ending. But still, things could be retconned in a way where the glory of Shazam, the glory of Wonder Woman could still be left alone, right? I don't want Wonder Woman to change, because the way she's progressing through time, she doesn't know Superman yet. She doesn't know Batman yet. So they could still have Gal Gadot, and still progress forward until she eventually meets them, right? And they're probably going to look different. Wonder Woman might meet Robert Pattinson when he's a younger Batman. And it doesn't change things. It only amplifies, and it only makes the storytelling so much better, because we know that Barry Allen went back, he changed things. So it makes sense for all of these changes to happen now. It makes sense for Wonder Woman to meet Batman, or to meet Superman, or to even meet Shazam at different time periods without the knowledge of Doomsday and the whole, them going against Darkseid in Justice League, and meeting those characters at various times with better storytelling, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my viewpoint on the DCEU and how they can fix it, using Flashpoint as a catalyst for greater storytelling. Because as of right now, Marvel, they're doing well. And a lot of people are worried about the future of the MCU. I'm not worried at all. It's just going in a different direction that people are not used to, because some of the characters they're not used to. You got to remember, a lot of comic book movie watchers are not comic book readers. So for them to see a whole new legacy of characters is kind of scary, right? So, for example, if I don't see my Superman change, my Captain America, if there isn't any more Captain America, there's going to be someone else who's going to play Captain America, or there'll be a whole new set of teams that I don't know, but I got to know Tony Stark, and I got to know, this character. All things happen like that when it comes to movies, right? Especially if the actors change. You're kind of used to this one character, and then you're like, oh man. I was born in the 80s, and it wasn't until the 90s that I started watching the Superman movie with Christopher Reeve. And let me tell you, I thought he was the perfect Superman. I still kind of think he's the perfect Superman, right? And throughout time, I watched other movies and I watched shows, and there were other great Supermen too, right? It just took a little bit of time for people it takes time for people to get used to something that's brand new, right? Because they're scared of change. And I think that's just the reality of things, right? One of the things that I'm really hoping, going back to the DCU and fixing it with Flashpoint, I do hope that our main villain is the Reverse Flash. The Reverse Flash is one of my favorite. Let me tell you, he's one of my favorite villains of all time. I just think, and usually I wouldn't pick a character like the Reverse Flash, because he's basically the opposite of the good guy with the same powers, right? Usually I don't like kind of doppelganger evil versions of characters, but their mindset and philosophy is very different, and that's why I love Reverse Flash. So if they could get a really great actor to play Reverse Flash, to let that villain kind of take the whole entire movie. I love when villains take over the whole movie, where you're invested in the villain as kind of the main character. So that's enough of my ranting today. Until tomorrow, everyone, where we have episode 3 of Comic Book Vibes. I hope you enjoyed the episode today. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're listening on Anchor, don't forget to like the video and favorite it, right? And if you're interested in being a guest for future content, let me know. Check out my Instagram at zen.world_. And you can message me, DM me there. Make sure it's appropriate, or you could just message me if you're on YouTube and you get the release for this podcast for Comic Book Vibes. Make sure you comment, right? And you let me know, Zen, I wanna debate with you. I want to debate on these characters, or I want to talk about these comic book characters. Let me know. All right, everyone, take care and have a wonderful day.